Coming to you live from my apartment. It's Rob has a podcast, and now here's the guy who has his best red flannel shirt on. Here he is, Rob Cesternino. Hello, everybody, and welcome to our very special podcast, last Big Brother show before Wednesday night's finale. And it is my honor to bring you the great two-time Big Brother finalist and winner of Big Brother 10. Here he is, Dan Gheesling. Dan.
Robert, how are you?
Very good, Dan. How are you?
I'm doing excellent. I feel like we're in a brand new studio here. I see the wide range of awards behind you. My, how the mighty have risen to new levels, Rob.
To new levels. Dan, and you, I'm so unfamiliar. You have like this new artwork behind you. I haven't seen this before.
I'm coming to you live from my kitchen table.
Wow.
So I'm not in my office for once.
Did you paint that artwork that's behind you?
No, I think my grandma actually gave it to me for our wedding gift. But here's the thing about this. If my wife and I get into a disagreement, the pictures will reverse, so the people will be at the other ends of the bar.
Oh, and so it's never happened yet, and that's what happened?
It's never happened. It's never happened. But if you ever come over and you see that and be like, hey, it's guys' night, Rob, I'll take you out. We'll go watch the Jets get beat.
Yeah. If I had a photo like that in my house, it would never be the other way. It would never come back to being the right side.
No, Nicole's awesome. She puts up with you, so I'm sure you bend over backwards to keep her head.
Yeah. All right. Well, Dan, very excited that you're here to talk about Big Brother 17. We are within almost 24 hours until the finale. What are you doing for the finale? Do you spend the whole day just reminiscing, going back over the tapes, watching live feeds over again from the start?
You know, I don't. You know, it's for me. This has been the season I've relied heavily upon Twitter. You know, and it's been cool. It's been keeping me updated in terms of what's going on in the feeds. And I think I've tuned in the feeds like 2 or 3 times, and that was early on in the season when there was a lot of people around, and it's more interesting to watch. But, you know, I'll watch the finale with my wife, and then my mom will call me the second after it's over. My mom will get embarrassed. But she's like, my mom is like, cheers for the 1973 Dolphins. Like, that's how she treats me in this. I'm like, Ma, I don't care. Like, it's cool, you know.
So she doesn't want there to be a clean sweep. Is that what it is?
Yeah, and I'm like, every time I see her, she's like, do you think it's gonna happen? I'm like, Ma, I don't care. Like, but she loves the show, and she's probably watching tonight. So I love you, Ma.
Okay, good. Well, we'll see. I don't think there's going to be a clean sweep tomorrow night, no matter what. So I think you're looking good for another season, Dan. But we are very excited to talk with Dan. We're going to take a lot of your questions later on. Get your hashtag RHAP. Also on our YouTube channel, you could subscribe and leave your questions at robisawebsite.com/YouTube. We are geeking out because tonight we have Dan right now. Later on tonight, we're going to be revealing the results of your poll for the top 30 Survivor seasons of all time ranked. We had people rank these seasons, Dan. We're going to reveal those results tonight at 9 Eastern, 6 Pacific, and then we get all into it tomorrow night. We'll do Survivor Know-It-Alls at 9:45 p.m. Eastern after the Survivor Cambodia premiere. And then we will talk about Big Brother 17's finale at 12:30 a.m. Eastern. We're doing a.m. Eastern shows, Dan.
Wow, that's big time, especially for you on the West Coast, huh?
No, it's pretty easy for me on the West Coast, but that's late for people on the East Coast. So we appreciate that.
My mind's blown. I was thinking while you're talking, I'm thinking about what's my favorite Survivor season, and you know, I'm just trying to think of like big moves and you know, I was thinking Pearl Islands. I was thinking Heroes vs. Villains, the first one.
Do you follow the Survivor that closely?
If it's a compelling cast, I'll watch it. So, not really.
Oh, shots fired.
No, I like watching the like, Heroes vs. Villains. I was all in, you know, because I know these players. I know, you know the classic people that are coming back. I love to watch that. You know, I'm at the point now where like, you know,
second chance, Dan.
Yeah, but who's on there? You know, besides
a lot of people. This is All-Star season.
But I don't see. There's no big time. There's no Boston Rob. There's no Hance. There's no Hatch. I mean, who's an all-star now?
Okay, well, this is they took 20 people that never played a second time and didn't win. These are the second chancers.
I mean, there's like an asterisk and asterisk. Why don't you put Boston Rob back? Like, if you put Boston Rob, I'll watch Survivor. But
for the 5th time, you want Rob?
I would, yeah, because he's enough to watch, to take a less than casual Survivor fan like me, and I would watch it for him. You know, I just don't. Who's been the recent, like, so there's been 3 generations of Survivor.
Mm-hmm.
Who's been the best in the 3rd generation, or most compelling character who's won or made big moves? Like, give me some names, and hopefully I can like.
Tony? You like Tony?
I didn't see his season, but I heard he was really good.
He was really good. He was out of control. And that's a good segue to Vanessa, because I feel like that Tony and Vanessa have been very similar, not just because my impressions of them sound identical, but Vanessa is somebody that we've really been on this roller coaster all the way through, the ups and downs and the highs and lows. And really, Dan, you're the authority on this in terms of talking about these people. Is Vanessa a great player? Is she a good player that was in the house with sort of so-so competitions that if Vanessa was playing against elite players, would she have been sort of like sussed out earlier on in the game? So I would just love to get your take, just sort of from the 30,000-foot view perspective on Vanessa.
Yeah, let's start with this. First off, I mean, thanks for deeming me the authority. I would flip that to you. But in terms of, where does she rank? First she's got to win. Second off, I think it's been beaten to a pulp, the fact that she doesn't own her game, right? So what? So put that to the side. That's really just makes for an entertainment standpoint. Excuse me. So because she doesn't own it, people don't like her. I don't say don't like her. People don't enjoy watching her as much because I look at the final three and I'm like, okay, she's played the game the hardest. It's not even close. The thing I have with Vanessa is that it feels like it's not fun for her, and because it's not fun. Like I know winning's fun, but she's always stressed out, and it's just always like so intense. It just takes like the lightheartedness and like the cheery and like positive part of Big Brother, and it makes it not fun to watch. Do I think she's an awesome player? Yeah. Do I think she's probably going to go down as the best female player to play the game in that capacity? Yeah. Was she fun to watch? No, but should that matter? To me it does, because that's what keeps me coming back to watch. But in terms of you're talking about where does she rank, and I think that's so arbitrary. As I've gone into my twilight stages of Big Brother, it's so hard to compare. And you mentioned like, was there weak competition? There's so many variables in the game. Do I think if you put her in a house with people from last season, do I think she does just as well? Probably. I think the people that are in the upper echelon of players, it doesn't matter as much what season you put them in, they're going to rise to the top. And I think if she wins, I think you put her in again in a similar situation, or if you change house guests around, she's probably going to do the same thing. Because it seems like throughout the season, she was able to extinguish people that at least had an inkling of what she was doing, and to me, that's a sign of a really good player.
Dan, do you play any poker?
I do play poker, yeah.
Do you feel like there is a lot of parallels between being a good poker player and Big Brother? Did you play pick up poker after Big Brother?
I played before. My extent is I played online. I won a few tournaments, nothing big, and I played in person after it. Some sit-down tournaments at casinos. So I'm not Vanessa. You can go to a casino and you can pay like $60, and it's like a no-limit tournament. That's what I play in. Mm-hmm. And if there's any correlation, I'm not a very good poker player. Like I can when I get pocket aces, like I'm trying to keep a poker face, but my heart's beating, my hands, like I'm not a good poker player. I can understand the strategy of it, but from that standpoint, I'm not very good. I don't know if there's parallels, because here's the thing: you take Vanessa, who's supposedly, I'm going off information, is a great poker player. Like I don't think that's crossed over in her Big Brother game. Like you see her breaking down, you see her being very emotional, and that's like the opposite of what I think of as a great poker player.
Yeah, it's funny because we would have said coming into the season, like, oh, here's somebody who's a poker player. This person is just going to be ice cold this whole season, and they're not going to get too high and they're not going to get too low. And it's almost like the opposite of what we've seen in Vanessa. Isn't that unusual?
Yeah, you would think so. You'd think someone like a poker player is used to playing for high stakes, doesn't crack, doesn't show emotion, and it's flipped. But you have to give her credit. That without a doubt, the situation she's been in for high stakes poker has helped her, but it didn't translate like I thought. It's been interesting to watch nonetheless. I just didn't think she was going to be so like recluse with her emotions. I thought she was going to be dialed in and like slicing people's throats and laughing about it, and it seemed to have affected her, at least whether she's acting or not. I don't know. It seems to have affected her emotionally, or she's tried to give off that vibe, and it's just the point. The one thing that just sticks out to me is you have this great moment of when she sends the wrestler out. Okay, I don't know what to call him, either Austin or Judas, whatever you guys refer to him as. And then while before the knife's out of her hand, she's apologizing and explaining it. And some people might say, well, hey, Dan, that's a great game move because at least she knows why. She's saying why he's being voted out. But from an entertainment standpoint and from like a badass standpoint, it's like, hey, the knife never even really went in because she's apologizing before it happened. It was just, I'm not going to beat a dead horse and say that she doesn't own her game. I think that's widely known by the Rob Has a Podcast community. I just wish she had more fun when she was doing those things because those are the rare moments in the game when you can do that, when you can floor someone and have some fun with it. And I'm not saying she has to rub his face in it, but go in the DR and just enjoy that moment. And it seems like it's just been like an emotional roller coaster for her, which I can't say it's an easy thing to do. You know, it's not for the faint of heart, but she's playing tough, and I like how hard she's playing. I hope she wins, and that's really all that matters is that she wins.
By the way, I'm so excited that Dan is here. I didn't even have a chance to introduce that our live feed correspondent who's here today, Taryn Taz Armstrong, is here with us to talk about live feeds and everything else that comes up with Dan. So I just want to say hello to Taryn. Hi, Taryn, how you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm here to keep you guys updated on who's winning the card games in the house.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Good. I would imagine Vanessa.
Yeah, mostly.
Yeah. Dan, let's talk about the jury because I think that this is going to be pretty interesting heading into tomorrow night. Now, again, if Vanessa makes it to the final two, I think it's going to be very fascinating to see how she approaches these people on the jury because we've heard her say a lot throughout this season of like, you know, I'm the best person in the house and you know I'm the nicest person and I would never do this to you and it would hurt me if I found out that you were lying to me because I've always been straightforward and honest with you. And so will she drop that in the final two? Do you think that she will go into apology mode? Do you think that she will finally stand there and sort of like thump her chest and say, you know, I beat you, I put you guys here? How do you think she handles that final two?
You know, you can only judge what someone's going to do based on their history. I don't see her doing that. I think if she does that, you know, my mom will be sad in Dearborn, Michigan, because I think it should be a clean sweep if she does that. I don't see her doing that. You know, it's just not what she's been known for in the past. And coming from a guy who's done well in the jury and done poorly, one of the things I will say, I think one of the hardest things is to understand what that jury's going to do because, you know, we sit here and pontificate and analyze and say, well, so-and-so is going to vote for her for sure. Yeah, we know that as an audience, but being in that house, you have like this much time to see how someone's going to react when they head to the jury, when they're heading out of the house. And then it's really hard to get a beat on what's going to happen. To me, what the default jury vote comes down to, if you don't know anything, in my opinion, is how was your relationship with that person? You know, is it someone that you put a lot of FaceTime with? Yeah, you may have stabbed them in the back, but have you developed a real bond? Because I feel like that, in my experience, has overridden a lot of dastardly moves you can make against someone.
All right, so if she is ultimately there in that final two, we've heard people like Austin say that he will not vote for her, that he will work to poison the jury against her. How big of a threat do you think that legitimately is?
You know, I think people that say they're going to poison the jury aren't very self-aware because number one, someone's heading to the jury, that proves that they're not very self-aware in the first place. Number two, someone that's like that pompous to say that they're going to do that, probably they're that pompous enough for other people to realize, and someone's probably not going to be influenced by that, in my opinion. By the time, I think, like, who is he really going to influence? Maybe his girlfriend. You know, where does his domain reach beyond that? Do a lot of other people respect him in the jury house? You know, do a lot of people respect how he played the game, developed a relationship with him, liked being around him? I don't know. I think that's a question for Taz to answer. I mean, we fact check, like, who liked being around Austin as a person in the game?
Meg and James really got close to Austin around the time that they left, and they went out of the game saying that they thought Austin was playing the best. Okay. So there is a chance that he has some sway with them, but they've also spent a lot of time in the jury house with Shelley now, who I think is a more influential person than Austin in general. Yeah,
when you say a name like James, I think of someone like a very, I don't say headstrong, not in a bad way, but he seemed like he had a plan in the game, or at least for parts of the game, like he was his own own guy, had his own plan, and wasn't willing to be influenced by other people. So I could see Meg being, swayed, but I don't see James. I think he's going to vote for who he thinks played best, but I don't know. In terms of poisoning the jury, I don't think he's going to be able to do it. And at worst, who's he going to get? He's going to get 3 votes. I mean, I know it's a lot, but who knows? I don't know. I don't buy into that because I don't feel people that go to the jury have much more power outside of their own vote beyond their own, in my opinion.
Dan, were you upset that Austin ripped off your Judas character, which you created in Big Brother 10 with the help of Jerry?
Well, I didn't create anything. That's something I would
Jerry created.
I would never go ahead and call myself that because it's kind of in historical or religious thing. It's not something you want to be known as, but for him, I love when he had Mike Boogie on the podcast because he's such an articulate guy, and to quote him, it just came off kind of creepy and weird, and
yeah.
Anytime someone forces a character, it's just you're trying too hard, versus someone like Johnny Mac who you think is kind of that character, or maybe a little bit of his normal personality on steroids. But I just think what will irk me to the most, even beyond people who float through the game, is when people go on the show and they say something like, "Oh, I got my FaceTime," or "Oh, can I go on a soap opera now?" or "Oh, this is going to propel me to, do great things in entertainment." That's to me what I dislike most about people. If I can dislike people that I don't know that I watch on TV, that's the reason why. It's because they're trying to use the show for fame, which is not in my opinion, not what the game is all about.
So I know you also get down on these people that go in there for showmances. What annoys you more, the showmances or the people that are trying to get famous?
People trying to get famous. I feel like that's a motive with people going in, and in a showmance, although I'm very vocal against them, it's a very tight environment and people bond, and so some of those things you can't. I don't want to say you can't help. You can always help that, if you're focused on the money, but if you're going in, you're all I want to do is even if I get voted out early, I just want to be famous or I want to make my mark. Just stop. To me, I just don't like seeing those players because those players are never fun to watch. Those players normally aren't very good. And number 2, and number 3 is they come off really fake and not even funny in the diary room. I don't know. That's just my opinion.
Let's talk a little bit about Steve, and I'd love to get where your head is at with Steve. That's another person that really, from the fans, it's really run the gamut to people feel like he hasn't played that much, to some people say he has played a really good game throughout this season. What do you think about Steve?
I think, and this is where you guys have to, help me out a little bit. He had a shot during a double eviction, right?
Yeah, let's set this up. Let's set this up because this is what we keep coming back to this, and Taz and I have had it out about this a couple times, where it's what is it? The final? Is it the final 7 or it's the final 8 at that point, where we have on the block it's Meg and Julia. And we've got a shot here where Johnny Mac and Steve could cast their votes with James to take out Julia, but instead they end up also voting out Meg. In the double eviction, then Liz wins HOH, and she then takes out James. And I believe also that Julia won the veto in that setup also. And we went back and forth a bunch of times of whether that was a good move or not. I said they should have made the move. I came on. I was really upset that night. Taryn says that they were correct, that Steve and Johnny Mac were correct to not make the move, that they had it all figured out. What was your take on that?
It's simple. It really boils down to very, very simple. I guess I don't want to use the term game theory because I'm not.
Theoretically speaking, yes.
I'll never say game theory. But in terms of you have someone who's very weak that can be influenced in multiple different ways, in Meg, and you have someone who's a part of one of the strongest 2 pairs in the history of the game, plus a behemoth, who's tied into there. I like to call him Groot throughout the season. In an endearing way, people got mad when I called the wrestler Groot, but that's kind of an analogy I like to use. Groot from Guardians of the Galaxies, if you guys don't know that. But anyway,
he is Groot?
What's that?
He is Groot?
Yeah, he's a Groot. He's
okay.
Groot. All right, anyways, so you got a shot to either you can keep someone in the game that's not very good at competitions, easily manipulated, or not, and they took the path of least resistance, which didn't help their game in the long run, didn't add a number to them, and it didn't break up arguably the tightest couple in the entire game in the Twins.
All right, Taryn, do you want to weigh in on this once and for all?
Okay, well, I will say I wasn't fully on board with the move. What I was saying was that Steve and Johnny Mac had not done the groundwork to pull off the move by the time they had thought of it. And I do think that had they put in the groundwork to do the move, it probably would have been the best move, especially for Johnny Mac. But Steve did heavily consider it. He weighed the pros and cons, and he just figured, Meg and James have not talked to me ever. How am I going to trust them moving forward to not just team up with the remainder of Austin and the Twins against me?
Let me ask this. When you say groundwork, what votes did he need to get? Who did he need to influence?
He didn't need any votes for that week, but what he needed to do was to make sure that Meg and James were going to be anti-Austin and Liz moving forward, because they had been working with Austin and Liz at the time, and the only reason they were against each other was because they were on the block. So Steve feared that if Julia goes home, then Meg and James are just going to team up with Austin and Liz. It'll be 4-on-3, Steve, Vanessa, and Johnny Mac, which was a real concern. But I do think you put the proper groundwork in, you talk to Meg and James, you get them on your side, you can move forward at that point.
But they had the votes to do whatever they wanted, correct? They didn't need
Yes.
Meg and James. So there's really no discussion. I mean, you make a move and then you talk to people after and say, like, here's what I was doing, here's what we're going to do moving forward. I get what you mean, like, make sure that they're not going to flip. But if I'm Meg and James, are you really going to go with those two? You know, they're kind of by their lonesome. That's when the whole house can team up and get them out. You know, I don't know. I remember watching that double eviction and be like, is this what double evictions have come to? And I don't mean to be cynical, but usually one of the double evictions, they're just blood flying everywhere. People are freaking out. And it seems like this season, it just didn't happen. You know, there wasn't, you know, it's kind of Vanessa just running the show and everyone else is just, you know, second.
Well, Steve had a big move, or a chance to make a bigger move in the first double eviction of the season when he ended up putting up Meg and Jackie up on the block. And again, I don't want to, you know, poo-poo what's Steve's game, because he's sitting here now with a shot to go to the final two and potentially to win. But just in terms from a TV perspective, did not make those big moves at those times. Now, I know that Steve fans will argue, well, he put up, you know, Liz and Julia up on the block to break up the Oz twins.
Was that the weird double eviction where no one went to talk to him, like in between?
Yeah, nobody went to talk to him.
That's like, I was sitting there, I'm like, this is when you can get your agenda pushed, you know, and not one person even tried that. I was just, I don't know what to call this season, because it's not like, I know these people were new, but it's not like they haven't seen, like, there's a lot that in those 5-minute windows before Julie comes on and calls you to the living room, like, you can, like, it's hectic, like, you can get stuff done, and I was just shocked that, like, how do you not take advantage of that time, even if you're someone low on the totem pole? But, you know, to Steve's defense, like, he's there, and from what I've understood, you know, through Twitter, is that, can we talk about spoilers or no? What do we know is happening? You know, do you want to do a spoiler disclaimer?
All right. Dan Gheesling wants to talk about the spoilers. We're going to hit the spoiler music. So you're going to talk about the round 1 and 2 of the HOH? Okay. All right, here we go. Spoiler music. Check this out, Dan. Hold on. False alarm.
Is
a spoiler.
Warning.
A spoiler.
Warning means that an actual
Spoiler.
against this country has been detected, and that protective action should be taken.
Yes, that's right. All right, got the spoilers going. And Dan, all right, what do you want to talk about?
So, from my understanding, what I've heard is that if Steve wins the third part, he's going to shank Vanessa. Is this confirmed nor denied? Like, hasn't he, like, told his mom this on the live feed or something? Or
Yeah, he's been planning on cutting Vanessa as soon as he could, probably since at least Final 5, Final 6.
Okay.
So he's definitely planning on taking Liz.
This is Steve's redemption moment. If this does happen, you know, from my standpoint, you forget about all the things he didn't do, and then that becomes, I think, the moment of the season where it's like, here's Vanessa, who's played her tail off, done everything she possibly could to win the game, and it comes down to, you know, the randomness of the third part of the HOH. Steve pulls it out and then just crushes her. Like, can you imagine her face walking out of there? I mean, this is someone who I think, you know, I've seen pictures of her with like 8,000 M&Ms and like 40 different formations. Like, she's thought of every scenario. But if the the final competition falls Steve's way, I think we're going to have the best moment of the season, in my opinion. And I don't necessarily want that to happen.
I agree. It'll be great. It'll be great TV. But let me just tell you, I'm going to call this right now. She will be insufferable on that jury. She will stand there and she will give like these Sioux Hawk snakes and rats speech. Like, oh my God, Steve, if I ever see you ever again in my entire life, then I'm just going to, I would let you die of thirst. I would not be your friend. I would let the vultures do with whatever they want with you. And I would not have one ill regret. And I think she would just light him on fire in that final two.
See, and that's the thing. I saw a tweet today. What has it been, 97 days?
Yeah.
They've been 97 days in the house, right? So this is 97 days for Vanessa, in my opinion, of 24 hours a day of stressful work, of not enjoying herself, and then to get to that point and then get shanked. I don't know. There's a part of me that's like, all right, I think Vanessa would take it and be like, you got me. But then there's a rational part of me that says, there's no way that's going to happen. I think that would be the greatest moment of the season if it happens. From a game standpoint, I don't really want that to happen because I feel like Vanessa's played her tail off. But from an entertainment standpoint, like I'm kind of want that to happen.
Karen, is this the perfect storm of Liz winning?
I'm really terrified that it is, to be honest.
Oh my God.
We've
leaving. Dan left, everybody.
Just turn the lights. Just turn the lights.
Oh, okay.
We've seen Steve practicing his final two speech, and it's not the best in the world. He's going to try and prove to everyone, every single member in the jury, that he got to know them on a personal level by telling them a fact about themselves. His fact about Jackie is like, I know that you befriended Blair and whatever, the Amazing Race people.
Blair and Haley?
Blair and Haley. I know you befriended them after the Amazing Race. That was the thing, right? He was like, what do I know about Jackie? I don't know anything about Jackie.
You better hope he's right on that one.
So yeah, and
let me practice for Thursday then, if this happens, where Steve wins the final HOH and votes out Vanessa. All right, here I am. We're here with the winner of Big Brother 17, Liz Nolan. Liz, congratulations, you won.
I know.
Feel. Wait, is this actually Julia I'm talking to? Wow, Dan.
Do you think that happens though? I mean, you think like they're going to vote for someone who has done really nothing in the game versus Steve, who's done more than nothing in the game?
I think Steve is the favorite. I'm afraid that Liz might have 3 votes locked up if Vanessa's going to be bitter, and she says she's going to be. And then all they need is like Megan James or like just 2 other people, and all of a sudden Liz is our winner. And
or anti-Steve votes. Jackie
exactly.
could be anti-Steve.
Yeah, it's scary.
And that just goes to show you guys like the luck and like the fragileness and like fickleness of this game. Like you can be Vanessa, which arguably you could say like you can probably say no one's worked as hard as she has in that game, and like, but she still cannot win. You know, there's an opportunity for her not to win, and to me, that's a part of Big Brother that's always like a tough pill to swallow when you see someone like that who doesn't win. And not to say that like if Steve wins, it's like the worst thing that happened, because you'll be happy for him. He's kind of a young awkward kid, and that it'll be fun to see his interviews after and that sort of thing. But it's just the game's so fickle, and it's funny that we're doing it's all this analysis, and it really just comes down to that third part of that HOH. I mean, like,
trivia question.
Yeah, it's like throw 7 balls in the air, and whichever 4 land first, you win the game.
Is there a better way to do this, Dan, in your mind?
And I'm a little biased, but having experienced both, I just feel like for someone like if you gave Vanessa a season, well, I don't know, it's not even a matter, but if you give Vanessa a season 10 or before jury, she's probably going to get all the votes. I mean, if you give her enough time to talk to people and field questions and dig herself out of things versus the season 11 and beyond, the rushed format, I hope at some point they change that, because it takes 97 days of work for Vanessa, and it's like, boom, if you don't have you can't do anything in 5 minutes of speech,
Yeah, but Isn't it a knock on Vanessa, Dan, if hypothetically Steve wins this final HOH and decides to vote her out? Because, I mean, isn't it a more of a credit for somebody like you? Because so when Ian wins that last challenge and he takes you to the end, right? When you're the biggest threat, so I have that right?
Yeah, and I would agree with that.
I
I
mean,
mean, like, no, I thought you meant like the facts. No, I mean, yeah, I mean, you like to say, no matter what happens, I'm going to the final two and I got a shot. You know, I guess you could say that, but in terms of what could she have done different? I mean, you know, to build a better relationship with Steve, and I think when it comes down to it, and you know, I started the podcast out saying this, like, if you have fun with someone in the house, like Ian and I had fun together, and while I know that necessarily wasn't his motive for keeping me, it definitely helped. You know, it helped me like with that relationship with him, and I just feel like, you know, is that the flaw in her game that you have to win that final HOH to get there? Maybe, but she's played a pretty damn good game, you know.
yeah, I don't think anybody can take that away from her. But it will be interesting. If this is her undoing, Taryn, what is their biggest flaw in the game? What was the biggest mistake she made?
If Steve ends up cutting her, it's definitely been Steve. She has thought that he has been in her pocket all game long, and it really hasn't been the case. He was to an extent in the beginning, but pretty soon after he was aligned with her, he realized how good she was and kind of started to not trust her and went along with her because he knew it would get him, you know, pretty far, but was looking to cut her whenever he could. And she's kind of been blind to that. She still thinks there's a good chance he's going to take her to the end, and it's never going to happen. So it's definitely a blind spot. Something she's been working a lot on Liz, even though Liz can't win this HOH at this point. She's got Liz convinced that she deserves to win the game. Vanessa deserves to win the game, and Liz is like, "You're right. I just rode coattails. I don't deserve to win. You deserve to win, Vanessa." And she's like, "And I don't even care if Steve is going to take you instead of me. I'm fine with it." Like, she's not even talking to Steve to try and get him to take her.
Oh, see, yeah, go ahead.
Oh yeah, but she's not able to get that with Steve. Steve has kind of been this little kryptonite that she's been unaware of, who's kind of immune to her arguments. He's seen too many seasons. He knows the kind of player she is, and he does not want to be Cody from last season.
So, you know, and this is where some, you know, like you, Taz, you can tell me from the live feeds, you know, is she that unaware in terms of, like, I don't see her as being, you know, I don't know, like, how, for someone who's, you would like to think has had a pretty good beat on a lot of people this season, how is she not aware of that fact? Is he overselling it? Is she, you know, does she not see, how are those interactions between them not on TV that allows her to not pick up on the fact that he's not going to take her?
Yeah, I think it's mostly like the length that they've been working together. They've been working together almost the entire game, and they've had a final two deal almost the entire game. She's been talking to him about how she can't beat him in the end, and he says to her, like, well, then why would you take me if you know that you can't beat me? And she says, well, you're my best shot. And she's had those conversations so many times. She is skeptical. She is worried for sure. But she does feel confident that she has him. I think mostly on the fact that she's had him most of the game, and he's been hiding this from her for a long time now. So there's not like a change in demeanor she could have noticed.
Got it. And, like, so for her standpoint, like, and this is what I was trying to think of before we went live, like, who's been her go-to person? Like, who's been her, like, her number two? Who's been her, you know, closest ally member? Because it sounds like she's in a spot, like, where it's kind of like there's like three separate players there as opposed to a real alliance.
It's true. That's a thing, because, you know, when you were in the house, when you had people, you really had them. That you were their number one ally, and that's not been the case with Vanessa, where she hasn't been able to inspire that kind of loyalty. She was tight with Julia for sure, but Julia always had Liz. She was tight with Austin, but Austin always had Liz. She was tight with Steve, but Steve had Johnny Mac. And so she's never been like the number one person on somebody's loyalty list, except for now that she's in the final three with Liz, and Liz is, you know, totally with her.
It doesn't matter at that point. Huh.
Exactly.
I mean, if we're poking holes, that's the obvious, you know.
Yeah, and she's still easily the best player this season. I think she deserves to win, you know, however you want to, you know, define deserve. But these are, you know, if we're going to say what was her fault in the game if she loses, this is probably it.
Yeah. That's a big fault to have. I mean, she's going all in with pocket queens, and the other guy's got an ace turned over. She's holding her breath.
Look at
Exactly.
Dan. Look at Dan with the
I don't like
poker
I don't
vernacular.
like pocket queens. If I get pocket queens, so.
Yeah. And what was your take on Johnny Mac? Did you think that Johnny Mac was a great character or a really good or great player?
I think he's someone that saved the entertainment value of the season. He's someone that was fun to watch in the season. He's someone that brought something a little different to the season that we haven't seen, and that's the hard thing. Is this is 17th season of Big Brother. What haven't we seen yet? We haven't seen someone called Julie Lady. We haven't seen some guy like be so flippant in the diary room in a way, like on the live show, in a way that isn't like repulsive. Like he's flippant, but he's funny flippant. And I just think, he was kind of like an original character that, is a normal guy, if you could say, a normal guy that's made on the show, but understood the entertainment aspect, whether he realizes it or not, or whether at this point, the producers were like kind of letting him know in a way that, hey, we want more of this, because you can do that producer can do that by asking questions in terms of like his energy and his kind of weirdness. I think he was fun to watch, and I think he saved the entertainment aspect of the show because early on you lost some of those like fun people to watch, like a Jason, like a Dave Vaughn, that were just like lightning in a bottle, and you kind of didn't have that once that happened. So Johnny Mac was the electricity that kept the show going, if you will.
Did it bum you out that he left and came back into the house? Do you have any major issue with the players that get voted out and come back?
I don't, because you look at the way he came back. It wasn't like a crapshoot. It wasn't, most of the time that it's a revolving door, right? And he, he outlasted them and did his own thing. And he, to his credit, he didn't get revolving door. And that's, correct me if I'm wrong, that's the first time that's happened, right? Where someone who got voted back in didn't get sent right back out. Is that true?
Well, I think there's been a couple of people. Amy in Big Brother 3 was around for a while, right?
Yeah, and Judd was around for a little while too.
Oh. See, those are people you don't even remember, and I don't know that if like Johnny Mac he's the entertainment value from this season. Beyond that, was you would have liked, he was in a position a few times to do some big things, and I don't know, I think it comes to a point where it's really hard to find that character that's going to be entertaining and extremely shrewd. It's like you have, similar to last season, you had Zach and Derek last season. This season you have Vanessa and Johnny Mac. You haven't seen like two people together. I just think it's really hard to do.
Let's go into take some questions here. I know you guys probably have so many for Dan, and he's with us, so let's jump into it. Brent Showerman wants to know, should we really dismiss Liz's game? She found good alliances. She won HOHs. She's in the final 3. Any case where she deserves to win? Dan, you want to take this one, or should I let Johnny Mac field it?
Let's let Johnny Mac field it.
Okay.
No!
Yeah.
That's a throwaway question, Rob. Like, that's a question that, like, if we're on CNN or something and you ask me that, or someone is asked that question, you just kind of give them the look like, are advertisers really paying for this airtime or what? I mean, but here's the thing about Big Brother, and I'm not going to say it, but we live in a world where Liz can win the game. I mean, will it shock me if it happens? Probably not. I mean, people can win who have, you don't want to say not deserving. People can win against non-favorable players. We can say it that way. So anything can happen. So am I ruling her out? No. I don't know. I mean, what Big Brother world do we live in if Liz wins? The realistic one. I mean, it can happen.
Where she has her twin sister and her boyfriend and her best friend who just got jilted all on the jury. And in a world where you have somebody who is from The Amazing Race who got on the show who doesn't like a guy that's in the final 2, and then that's 4 votes. And can she find one more? Can she find the James vote? Can she find like one other vote in that jury?
How about this? We're not even talking about, say it's Vanessa and Liz. Like, could an upset happen? Could that happen? I mean, I think anything can happen, and to me, that's like, if that happens, it just shows you the nature of the game. If it's just funny because, it's like, hey, can Liz ever win? Yeah, she can win. I mean, you look at, Big Brother Canada, this first season, like crazy stuff can happen.
Mm-hmm. Somebody puts in the wrong key.
Yeah,
Darren, but there's no way that Liz can beat Vanessa, right?
I mean, she has her sister, she has her boyfriend.
Awesome. That's two.
That's two. I mean, when can you go to a jury and say, I have 2 guaranteed votes?
She'd have to have what? Bitter, James, and Meg, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I mean, what if, so say it's Liz and Vanessa gets up there and starts doing her thing and, like, is just, like, stressful and intense and, like, playing the integrity card. Like, are people going to get turned off by that and be like, screw it, let's just give it to Liz and go to the RHAP party, I don't know.
Yeah, I think it would have to be a scenario where what we've seen from the jury house in the segments that we've seen has been kind of misleading, where we see Shelley defending Vanessa's game, but at the same time won't vote for her.
Yeah.
Other than that, it's hard to see it.
Like, I agree. I mean, you saw how outspoken Shelley was, but will someone like Jackie, who, will she just vote however she wants, because it doesn't really matter? I don't know. I don't know how serious those people are going to take that aren't, you don't want to say invested in the show, but like those people in the jury house, let's do this. And you guys got to help me with this. People in the jury house, how many of them would you consider people that have seen more than 1 season or more than 2 seasons when they weren't sequestered? So who's in the Johnny Mac knows what's going on, you could say.
Shelley, I think, has been demonstrated that she is she describes herself as a fan, not an obsessive fan, but she describes herself as somebody who watches every season.
James, I would say, knows what's going on.
Seems like it.
Yep.
Okay.
Austin too.
In Austin. But Austin's in the other camp. He's going to vote for Liz. So it really comes down to Jackie, right? Which way is she going to go?
Don't forget Becky. She's in the jury house too.
And doesn't she dislike Vanessa with a passion?
She really did when she was in the house, but since she's been out of the house, she talks about how that she might have worked with her. But then on that jury segment the other night, there was a little bit of like, Vanessa was playing us the whole time, and Becky was like, I knew.
Becky has always had a grudging respect for Vanessa's game, and that's why she went after her. And while she was in the house, she said, if Vanessa makes it to Final 2, I'm voting for her. I mean, she's that good.
Got it.
But who knows? It's been like a month and a half since she said that, so you never know.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'm just trying to come up with some sort of path for Liz to win. Not that I want that to happen. I'm saying there's a chance for it to win. I feel like in this Final 3, like it's been really heavily weighted in previous seasons. Like no way is Derek gonna lose, right? In this one, I mean, you say it's not like this. It's more like that, if you will.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just.
I totally agree.
Playing devil's
Take a question from Andrew Kirk, who says, with being in the Final 2 twice, Dan, what advice would you have to the finalists regarding jury questions?
Yeah, I mean, and this is like I said, coming from going through the old way and the new way. I feel like the new way is so like contrived and controlled. It's really hard to do anything, and this is coming from a guy. I think it's really hard to do anything with a live jury, and this is coming from a guy who believes that, when you give your eviction speech, when you give your veto speech, you can still get stuff done. I truly believe that. I feel you're somewhat limited in the live deal because all those questions are pre-selected, they're pre-screened, and it's just the realness of the jury is removed for the sake of logistical television. Which I understand they have to control it in some way. So, I mean, in terms of advice I would give them, I mean, you've got to go in with a plan and, and execute. Whether the plan is right or not, you can't freewheel that, in my opinion.
But Dan, I think that's the best part of the whole show on finale night. Why have they tried to make that shorter and more controlled?
I don't know. Why do they announce the America's Favorite Player after they announce the winner? I mean, that never made sense to me either. It's like, hey, here's the winner of someone who's busted their tail for 98 days, and then here's someone that people like but got voted out, whatever. I don't know why they did that. I think as a player, I've always said this, as a player I hated it because it's very stressful. Like you're in the Final 3, and you have an idea what's going to happen, but you don't know. Versus before, like it was you and the other person. It was me and Memphis, and it was Dick and Danielle, and they're just riding out. They're like, you got 50, I got 500, or I got 5. It's already done. So there's an element of stress on finale night, the old way, that was kind of removed, and it made it a little more influential. But to me, the part that's missing, and a lot of people don't know this, or big fans know this, is that the old way, that jury questioning would go 90 minutes to 2 hours. Like each person asks 2 questions, and you're talking with them. You can't see their face. You're sitting in the living room, and you're talking with them. So you get a chance to, like, in between the 2 questions, you can, like, send messages to people. You can talk to people. You can, and they discourage that, but there's a lot of leeway. It's a 2-hour open phone line, more or less, to the jury. And I feel like when you're someone like Vanessa and you have a lot to explain, that hurts her ability to get a lot of votes, because that 2-way phone call is, 3 minutes.
Yeah, that's really interesting in terms of how it's changed. I feel like this really is not a great TV moment. The way it seems like they're like reading a question, it's like, okay, here's this question that I got picked to read. What was your favorite day in the house? Like, so it's just not a relevant question.
Yeah, because here's the thing. Like, so say like Steve goes and hacks Vanessa. Vanessa's may have a different question, or not Vanessa, someone on the jury may have a different question based on what happened, but instead they got to read this, fortune cookie slip, that you see them, they like read this little thing, and it's like what happens in that last eviction can change what someone's going to want to ask, but they're stuck to what they have to say. And to me, that's one of the biggest things I would change about Big Brother.
How was it when you did and went to the house or went to the jury house and talked about doing that round table? I feel like that would be very fun.
In terms of what?
Like when you were were able to, what was that, Big Brother 16 that you were there for that?
No, I did Big Brother Canada.
Oh, Big Brother Canada, you did that?
Yeah.
Okay, Dan. Sorry, these all blend together in my mind.
No, I'm trying to think if you're talking about the questioning. It's all right, Rob. You've won 4 podcast awards. You don't have to have your fact anymore.
Yeah. All right, let's go to this is from Sheena123. Dan, if you were in this season, who would you align with and why?
I would align. Let's see, who is the most malleable and easily influenced? That would be number 1. I'm trying to think of in terms of like a ride or die person. I don't know. It's tough. Probably someone that you'd have to say someone like, I'd probably go with someone like a Steve or like a Johnny Mac, because there's someone that you can develop that rapport with. I'm trying to think. There are a lot of strong females in this season. Someone like Becky just really didn't like. To me, she was focused and she didn't really care. She was doing whatever she wanted. I thought Shelly was pretty smart. I could see if you take the dude she was in a showmance with out of the house, I think she's someone that would be really good to align with, because she was pretty in tune. She understood what was going on. She's fairly social, but that's why I don't like showmances. You take someone like Shelly, who could be a really good player, and then all of a sudden she's distracted and yada yada yada.
Yeah. Did it make you very upset when Clay was decided to throw himself on the sword?
Yeah, the thing that got me about that is the dude played Division I football, right? That's a highly competitive thing, and then you're just like kneeling on the ball, and there's 3 quarters left to go, and you got a good chance to win. Like, I don't know. I'll never understand when people do that, especially someone that's got a chance. You've rarely seen that kind of lay down that early on in the game with someone who had the tools to do pretty well in the game. I know he got in some early fights and this and that, but I'm not a fan. I'll never respect when someone kneels the ball in the Big Brother house. It takes me.
All right, this is from Jeremiah Yap. If you could pick 3 players from this season to coach, who would they be?
That's a great question. That's a really good question. I would love to coach Vanessa, because I feel like, I would have had a chance to make her or influence her to be more fun, and to go be like, when she would do big moves, I'd be like you're the boss, like you're killing it, like have fun. And I would try to like just break her down in that standpoint, and try to let her know that, yeah, you're playing for $500,000, but it's a really fun experience too, and you can win $500,000. You can play really hard and have a blast doing it. And I feel like that's the element of her game. I would love to coach her. I think James, it seems like James went in really focused and then kind of tailed off. Like when he's talking about putting, war paint on, I'm like, this is, my kind of guy. And then it's like, where's the war paint, man? Like what happened? I don't know what happened to him. And then
fell in love with Meg.
Yeah, and then Steve. I think Steve could have, there's some opportunities for Steve to just make some bone-shattering moves, and it just slipped away from him. So I'd say Vanessa, James, and Steve. And I'd like to probably align with Shelly because I think she was pretty sharp.
You know, there were so many comparisons all the way through between Steve and Ian, and you played with Ian throughout your entire season. What do you think was the biggest difference between Steve and Ian?
I think here's the difference. I think Ian, let me see, how can I say this? I think Steve didn't necessarily grow up in the house, and that's not, I don't know the guy, but like felt like Ian matured through the house, but didn't understand what was going on socially in the game, but he grew as a person. Where like Steve, like I would never see, and there's nothing right or wrong about this, but here you asked for the difference. I would never, in a million years, I never see Ian go to the camera and be like, "Hey mom, what should I do here?" Like Ian would like analyze it and be like, "Well, here's what's going on, guys. Like this happens and this will happen." But Ian, I don't want to say maybe was not as emotional. Like I guess that's the big difference. Ian didn't understand what was going on socially, but he worked his way to fit in, and I guess you could say the same about Steve. But I'd say emotions was very different. Like Ian was fun. I don't know. Did people like have fun around Steve in the house? It seems like a nice guy. I don't know, but
Taryn, has Steve had a big transformation in your eyes over the course of the season?
I wouldn't say a big transformation. I think the biggest change is just how other people treat him. In the beginning, he was like a pariah. Like nobody wanted to talk with it. They all told him to leave if he entered a room. And then pretty much everyone that he didn't get along with got voted out of the house, and then he got stuck. He was left with the people that did kind of like him. So he started doing better there. So socially, I don't know if he improved a whole lot. But strategically, I think he was a little more aware than Ian was, I think.
Yeah, that's that you hit the nail on it. I think Ian over time became more endearing to be around, but didn't necessarily understand things that were going on around him from like a, I guess, higher game level. Where I think, correct me if I'm wrong, like Steve understands the situation with Vanessa, and I don't think Ian understood that until like he destroyed the finale speech and did all this stuff. But no, I think they're both interesting characters. I think the cool thing about Steve is that, it's still, you still have this guy who's not the typical person. I wouldn't say not the typical Big Brother person, yet still found a way to get to the end and still, socialized, and it's cool. To me, it's like I like seeing people like Steve on the show because he's a real person. He's really kind of awkward. He's really like close with his mom, and yet he's still. Not that saying you can't be close to your mom and win the game. I love my mom, but it was just, it's fun to see real characters like that in the show versus someone who's like putting on an act and wants to go on Bold and Beautiful and this and that. So I'm rooting for Steve too. He's a young kid and he's gonna do good things.
Young lad.
Yeah.
All right, this is from Ashley. Bedazzle wants to know, what is Steve's best argument for winning if he makes it to the final two? All right, so Steve versus Vanessa. Can you write the speech for Steve, Dan?
That's a tough speech. I mean, I think you can. Let me see. I think Steve versus Liz is pretty easy. Steve versus Vanessa. What is he? Give me a competition tally, because that's always like the default base level Big Brother. People love to hear that. What's the?
I think if he wins the final HOH, he'll have tied her in HOHs, but she still has him on vetoes by like a 1 or 2.
Okay.
I think.
So his. I don't know, man. How is he gonna beat Vanessa's speech? I don't know. I mean, unless he. First off, how are they gonna end up there together? Is this a scenario that's not gonna happen, right?
Unless Vanessa takes him. Vanessa seems like she's going to take Liz, but I don't think we've gotten 100% confirmation. Like, she doesn't talk to the cameras like Steve does.
Yeah, I think I don't know. I don't know how he does that. I think he'll kill. I don't know if he'll kill Liz. I just don't. His ability to give a speech. I don't think that's his strong suit. And his ability to give a speech against someone like Vanessa, who can explain a lot of things, who's done a lot of things. I don't know. Rob, I don't have an answer.
I will say in Steve's defense, I feel like he has given good speeches the times that he's been on the veto. I mean, they're lengthy, but I mean, I feel like he's been pretty good. I remember that one of the weeks that he was up on the block and he talked about how he gave like a pretty strong speech. He didn't do like shout outs too much and like talking about, yeah, just vote with what your heart. Like he really was like boom, 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 boom. probably on a week where he was the pawn and he didn't even need it, but he did do a good job with speaking. So we'll see. But
what do you think? I mean, what do you think he could say? What's his? I mean, what has he done better than Vanessa? Because all I'm hearing is crickets.
This is
yeah, and
There you go.
when he practices his speech, it's against Liz. He hasn't really practiced for one against Vanessa, even though he thinks it's a possibility she'll take him. I think he really just thinks he doesn't have a shot.
And you got to give him credit. To his credit, for him to have that kind of awareness in the end game, which to us is really obvious. I'm telling you, in that house, it's not obvious the best move to make at that stage in the game. It's really not. So to his credit, that's a really, really tough decision to make, and for him to be so sure of that right now, like, that's pretty impressive. I don't know how you convince someone other than me that that's impressive, but it is. And I don't know how you convince a jury, but I think him against Liz, that's his feather in his cap when he sends Vanessa out. I think that's his keystone of his entire speech is why he sent her out, and then at the same time, when he's saying why he's sending her out, that's like a tip of the hat to her that maybe takes the sting off a little bit. I don't know. Rob doesn't seem to think that she's going to be a non-bitter jury member, but we'll see.
I think she'll be a very bitter jury member. I really do. But we'll see. Steve as a Big Brother winner, Dan. Where do you see him? Hypothetically, he wins final HOH, knocks out Vanessa. Where do you see him? Middle of the pack, a little bit higher, a little bit lower?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really hard to quantify that, but I think there's like an upper tier, there's a mid tier, and then there's the people that kind of like fell into it. He's definitely not the person that fell into it, and in my opinion, he's not upper tier, so I guess that leaves him in the middle. But that's nothing to take away from him. It's hard to win that game no matter what. But I think, because here's the thing: if he does that and he stabs Vanessa, it's gonna be good TV, and people are gonna remember that if he delivers it in a memorable way. Which does he have it in him to like do a little pizzazz or a little flair or a little like? Does he rip the glasses off and be like, I don't know, what does he do?
And that's what you gotta hope for, because to see that moment, I feel like that's worth the price of admission tomorrow night. I feel like if we get to Vanessa wins that final HOH and takes Liz to the end, it's sort of like just like turn it off. That's it. What else is on? We go watch Survivor Know-It-Alls on replay.
But she's got 2 votes. We've established that fact, so she has 2 votes.
Yeah. All right.
The jury. How many people are on the jury right now?
Right now, it would be 8.
8. Okay. All right.
With one yet to go.
I mean, I'm trying to remember Big Brother history. When did they go from 7 to 8? Was that last
year?
Well,
it's 9 total. Once the other person from the final 3 goes, it'll be 9.
When did they go from 7 to 9?
I believe it was season 15.
Why did they do that?
I don't know.
I don't know
to be
either.
honest. I think because they lengthened the season around then, and they added a couple more people, I think.
Yeah.
So that's probably why.
All right, let's do a couple of last quick questions with Dan.
All right.
Let's. The great Jennifer Manning wants to know: do you agree with Mike Boogie and Rob that Vanessa should reveal her millions to Steve to swap him away to take her? I don't know if I necessarily agreed with that plan. Did you like that idea that Vanessa should come out to Steve and say, "Hey, I'm worth yada yada yada," and that's why the jury will never vote for me?
That's a great idea. That's a phenomenal idea, because right now, as from armchair quarterback, she has no chance of having Steve take her, right? Mm-hmm. This could be enough where this gives Steve something in his speech to talk about why they shouldn't give the money to Vanessa. I think it's a good move. It's something I would like to see, and I think Vanessa could get some mileage out of it. And if she did something like, "Hey, look, Steve, we've been so tight this entire game, and I don't feel good about heading into finale night, knowing that I'm going to take you, and knowing how close we are, that you don't know this big secret about me." And
my brother is Justin Bieber.
And I'd appreciate it if you don't tell Liz. I feel so close to you, and I wouldn't feel right going into the end without letting you know that I've done this X, Y, and Z. I'm a millionaire, and maybe that's a shot. If she gets a whiff of that Steve's not going to take her, I think that's a great card to play. Because right now she doesn't have any other cards to play to get him.
Do you think that would affect the jury though?
I don't think enough. I mean, she can say she used that to convince Steve to take her. You know, I mean, I don't know. I guess I can sit here and say that, like, you know, people don't like to. How do I say this? It could influence the jury. You know, people may not vote for her because she has money, which I think is foolish. But I don't know. If I'm her, am I playing that card as a last resort? You know.
I actually think it's a really good idea because based on what she's told Austin already has an inkling of how much Vanessa is worth. He knows she's a very successful poker player. She's made some shady deals with him about, you know, maybe, you know, staking each other in poker games depending on who wins. He knows she's worth a lot, and I guarantee he's already in the jury saying she has a ton of money, we shouldn't vote for her. If Steve comes out in the final two saying she's worth millions, they're going to be like, well, yeah, we kind of already knew that. You sound kind of petty saying that.
Here's my question to you guys, okay? If Vanessa is indeed worth a couple $1 million or has a couple $1 million, why would you subject yourself to 100 days of isolation? Like, why? I mean, like, to me, like, isn't she losing more money by not playing in poker tournaments now than, like, cutting yourself off for 90 days and having a 1 in 16 shot? You know, that's when I first saw her. I'm like, I want her to do well. I think she's going to do well, but why is she doing it? I never understood that.
Dan, the fame and the prestige that comes along with being a Big Brother contestant. Obviously.
How can I forget?
But do you think that she's trying to build her brand bigger and reach out beyond just poker to other things and sees Big Brother as a vehicle to that?
Well, what would that vehicle be? She has a skill in that she can play poker, so that maybe she gets more sponsorship. I could see that. That would be, I think that's a realistic, not I want to say fame, realistic takeaway she could get from the exposure. But outside of that, you know, are people going to want to see her on her own reality show?
Well, I think she's looking to kind of branch away from poker and go more into the DJing stuff. So I think that's partly why, and then also
and Pow Pow, her career took off last summer. The
And
El Toro tour.
She's also been a fan of the show. She looks at it as a challenge, and I think she thinks it'll help kind of sell her brand and help her in the DJ world.
I heard she really wanted to meet Dan Gheesling.
She is a fan.
Yeah.
How about that, Dan?
Hey, maybe she can teach me how to play pocket queens because I don't know how to play. I don't know. I don't like when I think of her. I don't think of her as a DJ. Like, do you guys think of her as a DJ? Yeah. Does she talk about it a lot?
Yeah. She's really into it. You know, she was married to a poker player who sadly passed away from cancer, and for the past couple of years she hasn't done as well in poker. And she talked about before she went on the show that she was kind of looking to she's really gotten into this DJ thing. She took some music classes and she's really into music, and that's kind of where she wants to move forward with her life. And she's talked about on the feeds too, saying like, you know, poker wasn't her favorite thing in the world. It kind of made her feel bad that she was taking money from people. You know, she never got to have a nice feeling about making money. So yeah.
That could be game talk, though.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm just saying, like, from what I've heard.
Not feeling bad about taking that $500,000 from people.
Yeah. And honestly, most of this is probably, you know, to some extent, even the pre-show stuff, because I think she does care a lot about her image. But this is the story she's selling, at least.
Well, I mean, I think it's good for her. I mean, I think the thing about post Big Brother life, it's whatever you make of it. And I think, will she have some opportunities to DJ that she wouldn't normally have? Yeah. Is it going to be in like, you know, I want to use nice words here. Is it going to be in the middle of nowhere in the northern tip of, you know, Saskatchewan? Maybe, but it's an opportunity that she wouldn't normally never have had. So, you know, I think it's what she makes of it. I think she'll be very smart coming out. I just hope, you know, for the sake of a lot of people, I hope people come out that are realistic. But, you know, it's not. You got to make something happen. No one's gonna knock on her door and be like, hey, you know, come, you know, DJ at the Bellagio, and it's just not gonna happen. You know,
like, oh my God, are you guys ready to party right now? Are you guys ready? Like, I really think you guys are gonna like this song that I'm gonna play for you guys. I hope that it's really gonna be good. Okay, so I'm gonna be the best DJ that you guys have ever heard. And okay, let's go.
See, I think, you know, if I could coach her in post Big Brother, I would say her poker. I could see her leveraging her poker thing tremendously. You know, I think that's her play. I think she could get a lot of mileage out of that, and really, that's where I think the show can help her. I think if she tries to spin and do something else, I don't think she'll have as many doors open. But if you're a poker sponsor, and the exposure Vanessa's going to have, I think that's a good opportunity for some people.
She has talked about trying to maybe get her own reality show after this, maybe involving poker, maybe involving something else. She's definitely looking to do something, and I'm sure if it has to involve poker, she's probably okay with that.
Cool.
Okay. We'll see. We'll see about that. We're waiting for the Vanessa. Will you recap the Vanessa reality show for us on Reality TV Wrap-Ups, Dan? Will you host the Vanessa reality show podcast?
Oh, sure. Just FedEx me a plaid shirt, and I'll be the first.
Fantastic. Okay. We'll work on the intro.
Yeah.
All right. Let's do one last question with Dan from Spicy Wasabi. Vanessa has feared what she said in the diary room might be used against her to the other house guests. Is this a thing? And is this understandable why she hasn't owned her game? And why is Vanessa so concerned about the diary room?
I think this is a great snippet or a great slice of Vanessa's psyche. In terms of if you think that things in the diary room are going to be used against you, I think that just shows you the level at which she is, stressed in this game. I mean, there's a lot of things you worry about in the game, and that should never be on the list. I think she plays so hard, and it's so stressful, man. Like when you watch her, it's like it'd be interesting. You put a heart monitor on, and she goes in the DR and she starts talking to me. Your like blood pressure and your heartbeat rises because it's just like, just have fun, please, Vanessa. Like, just enjoy it. Just like laugh. Just like laugh when you evict someone in the diary room. Like it's just always like it seems like she's crying, and it's just so hard because I feel like she had the potential to be like, this great villainess, and it just never came together.
Dan, let me ask you one last question that came across my Twitter from Hunter on Twitter wants to know, Dan, what do you think of the rumor that there will be an all-winner season? Julie Chen says she wants an all-winner season.
I think it'd be fun to watch. I will put my hand on the RHAP flag and say it'll never happen.
It'll never happen.
No chance.
I think the chances are helped a little bit if Vanessa wins.
Why do you say that?
Because I feel like that there's a couple of winners that I feel like, well, that's not really going to be great TV to bring back a couple of these people. But, I mean, that's at least another winner that has been good TV this season.
You lost me on that. You're saying if she wins that there's a higher chance it'll be an all-winner season?
Yeah. I think if Liz wins, there'll be a lower chance there'll be an all-winner season.
Oh, I don't think we'll ever have an all-winner season. Ever, ever, ever. I mean, that wouldn't be good TV. It'd be awful. I mean...
I just think the first step is you need to have enough good winners to have it be an interesting season.
There you go.
The second would be getting the people to do it.
And then having the means to get the people to do it, which it's not gonna happen. I mean, they have the means, it just won't happen. Like, I listen to the podcast with Boogie because I think he's such an articulate. I love listening when he's on.
He was here in person, Dan.
Was he a studio guest? You didn't have the video though. Why was there no video?
I felt like sometimes it's more intimate. You sit down and if you don't need to do the video.
Got it. I mean the cost to run the show in terms. I mean, you guys already talked about it. Like,
yeah,
they're not paying us. They're not going to pay for winners to come back, at least to make it worth their while, which is fine. I don't think they should do that.
And for an extra 1 million people to watch, maybe.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Dan Gheesling did a great job. Dan, what are you working on these days?
Yeah, so, I'm back coaching football, which is awesome. I'm really, finally, life is, back to normal. So I'm speaking in the spring. So I took the first semester off, really, except for this past weekend. I was in a school in New Jersey. So I'm still doing college speaking. I have a business that I'm running.
Well, how do people get Dan Gheesling to come to their college?
They
just have to just pray to heaven and hope it happens.
No, that's just like anything else. I have my assistant handles all. Let's go to dangheesling.com/speaking. But my creative outlet is probably applicable to some people. It's actually fairly applicable. I have a YouTube channel where I do Let's Plays, and if you know what that is, you don't need me to explain anymore. If you don't know what that is, you probably have no interest in it. But I post 2 videos a day on my YouTube channel at youtube.com/.
2 a day.
What's that?
2 a day, Dan?
2 a day, yeah. So it's fun. It's good. It's funny. There's always like an overlap between like gamers and Big Brother, and it's cool to see like the people that make the jump, someone like Taz, and then there's people that are like, Dan, like, why are you playing video games on YouTube? It's like the people don't get it, and it's cool. But those that get it, check out the channel, and those that don't, I'll see you next year on Rob Has a Podcast.
Taz, what game could you beat Dan in?
Most of them.
Most of them.
I've met Taz in person at PAX East last year.
Yeah.
He came up to me. He was like, "Hey, I'm Rob Cesternino's twin brother." I'm like,
wow. Well, he pulled the Liz and Julia on you.
But no, thanks for having me on, Rob. And I have to say, your production quality. I'm not just saying this, Rob. We go back to the Spreecast days. Like, you've done a tremendous job. And I didn't think I said this last year, and I'm like, how could Rob raise the bar? And there's multiple awards behind you. You have a studio, and I just want to say to people listening, like, people look at Rob, and I hope you see all the hard work. People listening, the audience, have seen all the hard work you put into this, because it's a full-fledged production, and I'm just happy for your success, because I know you're so passionate about it, and it's cool. I always say this: it's cool to see people do what they're supposed to be doing, and while they're not afraid to be doing it. And I think that defines you, Rob. And
well, I can't. This is like my funeral. You're giving like
no, I just think it's so cool that you've been able to do what you've done, and I'm proud of you, Rob.
Well, Dan, I appreciate that. I know that you, like myself, are not afraid of hard work, and there's a lot of hard work that goes into it. And luckily, we get to do a lot of hard work on things that are very fun and things that we enjoy. So. We're both very lucky to have that opportunity.
Very much so. Very much so.
All right, Dan. It all comes down to this. What are you doing for finale night? What do you got? Like you get like catering? What happens on the Dan Gheesling finale celebration?
So my wife and I will probably order out. We'll pay attention somewhat to the show, and when they show those like, the moments that don't really matter, we'll be I'll probably be tweeting and texting you, Rob. But no, we'll just hang out, watch a show, and then, like I said, I will bet $100 that the second the last vote is cast and it's revealed, I'll get a phone call from my mom. Happens every year, and she'll be
good. That's a good tradition.
Oh my gosh! Yeah. So.
All right. Well, we got so much coming up. First off, in about half an hour, we're going to get into the revealing the top 30 rankings of all the Survivor seasons from you guys. That's coming up right here on RHAP.com. But then on Wednesday night, we're getting ready, Survivor premiere, and then we'll be live, Survivor Know-It-Alls at 9:45 p.m. Eastern, and then we'll do our Big Brother finale recap. Taz and the guys are going to be joining me live at 12:30 a.m. Eastern time, Thursday morning, to talk about it all live here on RHAP.com. And then I will talk to the final three in whatever order they finish. We will talk with them. That's going to be on Thursday morning. And then I'll also talk to the first person kicked off the Survivor on Thursday as well. And then we'll get into our big Survivor recap. Jenna Lewis is going to be here with me in the studio. So busy Thursday coming up. We'll do voicemails with Jessica Leese before we kick off Amazing Race season on Friday. So a million things going on. Subscribe to the podcast, robhasawebsite.com/iTunes, or for the RSS feed, go to robhasawebsite.com/RSS feed, or get the app, robhasawebsite.com/app. All right, Dan, did I forget anything?
Yeah, Rob, I just had someone Snapchat me the picture of the podcast. Are you on Snapchat, Rob?
Of course, Dan. I love the Snapchat.
What's your Snapchat?
It's just at Rob Cesternino. I find that I get my Dan Gheesling snaps.
What do you mean at Rob Cesternino? You can't have an at sign.
Oh, whatever. I don't know what it is.
You're not on Snapchat?
I am Rob Cesternino.
Oh, you said at Rob Cesternino.
Yeah. I don't know. You don't use an at on Snapchat?
No. It's like mine's just Dan Gheesling, one word, no at sign. Come on, Rob.
Yeah. No, I watch all the Dan Gheesling Snapchats.
I'm sorry that you have to subject yourself.
Dan, I'm sorry. You do a lot of like, hey, I'm doing this, like snap back at me. You just have everybody come back. I let anybody snap me for a couple of hours one day, and it was a huge mistake.
Well, but everyone's been really nice to me. What do people like say? Hey, you should have kick Taryn off the show and
Yeah, it's like a lot of like just like strangers like sending me things. It's like, I gotta make this back too. Just not anybody can send me stuff.
No, people are really nice, and it's fun.
There's a lot more. There's like people ask me questions on there. I was like, okay, all right, well, this is like
you have an audience, Rob. People want to learn where you get your plaid shirts from, and right now
you know what it is. I mean, are they hard to find? All right.
It is.
Well, great stuff. Follow Dan Gheesling on Twitter. If you're not, I mean, who isn't already at Dan Gheesling? What are you, over 200,000 Twitter followers, I saw.
I don't know. I'm just trying to keep up with you, Rob.
Well, you're doing a great job with that. All right.
Thanks for having me, Rob. Always a pleasure.
Yeah, great stuff. Thanks a lot, Taryn, and thanks everybody who joined us live. We've got so much coming up. Take care, everybody. Bye.
Later, guys.